Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, as we begin the month of August, it's important for us to take kind of a national look here at drought across the country. And when we look at this particular map, we can see spotty drought in parts of the Carolinas and parts of the Southeast. But outside of that, where major drought has been developing with some of the crops that the Carolinas are in competition with here, I think a lot about what's going on in parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, where things have been exceptionally dry recently. The drought in the Pacific Northwest, this has been ongoing, and given that it's the dry season that is expected, and we're expecting to continue to see parts of Oklahoma and Texas and parts of western Kansas continuing to be dry in the near term, which is going to add to their drought stress as they've been dry for quite some time now. And certainly that's going to impact peanuts and cotton and other crops grown there that are shared in the Carolinas. I want to take a specific look at North Carolina, though. So we kind of blew up North Carolina. We can see that much of our major drought problem is there along the southeastern coastline, stretching here into parts of northeastern South Carolina. I want to give you just a few different examples. We're going to go from west to east, starting in the Asheville area over here. Overall, so far in the year, if we'd have accumulated the normal rate of precipitation, we'd be sitting right in through here. So that you can see we are, more than a foot above average on total accumulated precipitation. So much wetter as we get back into the western part of the state near the mountains. Get over into the Raleigh area. That's here in the middle part of the state. We can see we still have a wet bias. Overall, I like to see this. You can see very regular kind of precipitation events. You notice this looks kind of like a set of stairs, and despite the heat we've had, decent regular precipitation's helped out. But take a look at this Wilmington, all right? Now, a year ago, notice this, our wettest year on record. Highest here is in blue. A lot of that, of course, given to us by Hurricane Florence. But this year, wow, we are way down on precipitation here, and several time periods where it was just these large plateaus, very, very flat, not accumulating much precipitation. So this is where we're seeing our most significant stresses. Another way we can view this is by looking at what's called the Vegetative Health Index. And this certainly uses a couple of factors, including how green things look from space and also the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, or NDVI. And what you're looking at here when you look at this color spectrum is we're looking at the difference between this year and a year ago. So if you're on this side of the color spectrum, the crops are not appearing as healthy as they did a year ago to date. And when we look here across parts of the Carolinas, certainly where we see the greatest stresses is going to be down into this corridor, although this is just, a slight change over a year ago. And there were some very hot and very dry times in the last 60 days or so. In fact, much above average temperatures going back to February. But in the last 60 days here of our growing season that have caused this to show up as a little bit worse year than a year ago. I also want to point out, look at the Corn Belt. Much, much worse year than we had a year ago at this time. And about the only large spread area across the United States seeing benefit over a year ago is the western United States, which has spent quite a bit of the summer on the cooler side of things, even though there has been some extreme heat in parts of California, getting all the way up to the Columbia River Basin here. But with huge snowpack, they've actually had a good year this year, while the eastern half of the United States has really taken the brunt of the major weather systems since we've gotten going with our spring and summer. Talking about recent precipitation, this is just looking at what we got over the weekend through about 5 a.m. on Monday morning. And certainly the major features have been a big ridge sitting here over the Four Corners region and some northwest flow bringing in these wraparound or these ridge riding storms. So extremely heavy rainfall in through here. Meanwhile, getting over to the southeast of the Carolinas, we watch this kind of lingering boundary that just won't move away. It's attached to a low pressure center way up off the screen here, moving through the Canadian Maritimes. And we did see a pulse of tropical moisture that just moved offshore here. And unfortunately, I had kind of thought it would, but it didn't bring as much moisture as I wanted right up here into the Carolina coast. So that's problematic. We could have used some of that rain from that system. It wasn't a tropical cyclone, but it was a tropical disturbance that we could have used. And I'll, of course, be giving you a longer range update on the tropics here in a few minutes. Now, starting off early in the morning, looking here at an animation for lightning. If you'd like to see this map on your own computer, it's called Blitzertongue. Blitzertongue.org, great website, live lighting. And I was just curious, I'd like to know if some of you folks are able to see these distant thunderstorms here just off the southeast coast of North Carolina and South Carolina. But that's kind of where our convective activity is going to be today, although we will be seeing widely scattered showers and thunderstorms throughout the day. Now, take a look at this flow pattern. It is really blocked up right now in the Gulf of Alaska. We call this a high over a low pattern. There's two lows. In fact, we really call this an omega pattern. There's another big ridge still sitting over the southwest, and the flow around it's doing something like this, and the jet stream is just hanging out way up here in Canada. That's where the strongest winds are. Now, this particular pattern is important for understanding what Carolina precipitation is going to look like in the coming days and also what our temperatures are going to do. But the main point to tell you is the flow is blocked up and it is north, and that'll be crucial for the longevity of our weather systems. So what are we watching here in the day on Monday? Again, we just have this lingering frontal boundary on this weak area of lower pressure. So there's actually a frontal boundary that stretches this way, one that comes to the south, and a stationary boundary that's butted up against the mountains here that is, moving through the Appalachian Mountains. So widely scattered showers and storms to start your week. And meanwhile, maybe some very beneficial rains that'll be coming into parts of Iowa and Illinois, just to keep you aware of what's going on with the corn and soybeans grown in this area, where some places in Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa received less than a third of an inch of rain in the last 30 days. So keep posted with what's going on there, because it's certainly going to be impacting corn prices, I think, soon, given how very dry things have been. Today, looking at where we're expecting to see some severe weather, a lot of this will be focused in the Central Plains and in the Midwest and Corn Belt, but we will be seeing chances for showers and storms here in the Carolinas. And let's take a quick look at this by going straight to our high-resolution NAM model. So starting off in the morning, widely scattered showers and storms through central North Carolina. As I play you throughout the day, they're going to pop. This is just what we're going to be getting here as this frontal boundary just sticks around. And those thunderstorms still pop in the day on Tuesday as well. So here's Tuesday afternoon and evening, seeing them coming up there again. Widely scattered showers and storms, a lot more active offshore. You can see a lot more thunderstorm activity there as we progress into the morning on Wednesday, which is where this animation stops here, out just off the coast. So one more time for you. High resolution model here showing a lot of widely scattered showers and storms as this next front slowly progresses toward us as we get to the middle and end of the week. Now, taking a look at how much precipitation we're expecting to see, taking us out all the way until next Monday morning. Overall, what do we see here? We see that a lot of the Carolinas, this is going to be daily convective activity in places. Best chances, I like this though, we see that the east coast of the state certainly showing up with the better chances of being wetter than average. But those rainfall amounts over the next 7 days here are ranging anywhere from the ½ inch to the 1.2 to 1.3 inch range in total. Meanwhile, a lot going on just offshore here. But again, these aren't tropical systems. In other words, they're not tropical depressions or storms, but tropical disturbances that are staying pretty well offshore. Okay, to week 2 we go. Take a look at this. The European ensemble is over here on the left. The GFS ensemble is on the right. Looking at it week 2, we do overall see from both models near average to slightly drier than average bias. Now, both models do struggle a bit. The GFS struggling more with this, but they do struggle quite a bit with understanding the daily convective patterns. I'm talking about those pop-up showers and thunderstorms. These models are lower resolution, and as a result, they can't pick up on those individual events as well. But at least gives us a picture as to what to expect going to week 2. A dominant feature will be the position and strength of this ridge and the northwest flow that we get around it, and that'll be centered pretty far to the west of North Carolina. So let's kind of take a look, switching over to the European model, the operational version, what we're expecting to see kind of every 6 hours as we progress forward in the forecast. You've seen out to midday on Tuesday, so the widely scattered showers and storms through the beginning of the week. Here's our next main frontal boundary stretching through here Tuesday night, so let's see where it goes. This is now Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, and Wednesday evening. By that time, I'm expecting to see the first frontal boundary kind of moving here at the end of the week toward the Carolinas. Could be bringing in some widely scattered, relatively low probability of storms, but some widely scattered storms, like I said, here into the middle and end of the week. The next big system moves up here into parts of the Hudson Bay, and again, see its front draped in through there. That front is on Thursday morning. This is Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and then into Friday morning. See it there? Now the main front sits right in through here, and we're going to be seeing if we can get that frontal boundary to get through the Carolinas as we start off the weekend. Looks like widely scattered showers and storms at best, okay? Meanwhile, once we get into Saturday, higher atmospheric pressure moves into the Ohio River Valley, and we may get the benefit of that in terms of both temperatures being cooler, but also in terms of maybe a chance of some rain, but mostly a drier forecast. But then we get into the weekend, this upcoming weekend. Here we are Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and Sunday evening. And again, widespread scattered showers and storms. So much of this is disorganized. Much of this will be coming in on weak frontal boundaries as we take you out through, again, the next week or so. But I'm just going to play the end of this relatively quickly because what I want you to see is that notice in the Atlantic, in the Gulf of Mexico, the operational European model is not picking up on any tropical development. And as a consequence of having the ridge centered much farther back to the west, we don't have we're not on the right side. We don't have the right upper level dynamics to continue to produce more sustained wetter conditions across the state of North Carolina. And that's really the takeaway point here. We're going to be doing a lot of just daily weather forecasting progressing through this pattern because the longer term stuff isn't going to pick up too well on the bigger picture here. Now, if we switch this over and have a discussion about temperatures, here's our omega pattern. See it right out here? We have several troughs that sweep through the Canadian prairies and a ridge that sits back over here in the southwest. Now, we're thankful that that ridge is there and not sitting over us over the southeast. Otherwise, we would be baking under the heat of that. But a more dominant feature in the high latitudes is the blocking over Greenland and this deeper trough over the Russian wheat belt. Now, I know that's a lot of features to watch, but it's summer, and these are the patterns we have to try to pay close attention to. So as we go through the forecast, by the end of this week, see this feature coming through parts of, the Canadian prairies up here, getting into Ontario and over toward Quebec. That is going to reinforce a broader trough that at times is going to take our temperatures back closer to normal. But after it sweeps through, take a look at this. I got you out to August 10th. 11th and 12th, we are going to get a bit of a rebound in our temperatures in both the 6 to 10 and the 11 to 15 day forecast here as this broader ridge establishes across the southern plains into the Four Corners states. So we're going to see what this pattern means overall. But it tends to, toward the end, feature a broader ridge feature that's sitting into this area, deeper troughs that are in both Russia here, on both sides of Russia, I should say, so the western and far eastern parts of it. And that is the more, I think, important feature to understand as we progress through with this forecast, because I believe overall it's going to prevent large ridging over the southeast, which means prevent major drought and heat development with time. And at the same time, this is going to be important for the tropics, which I'm going to show you next, okay? Temperatures first. Days 0 through 5 over here on the left. Overall, looking at near average temperatures for the Carolinas. The heat stays back here in the western United States. Look at this, though. Days 5 through 10, very hot along the Gulf Coast, coming up into the Carolinas, back over towards Texas. But look at what happens by the time we get you out to the day 10 through 15 time period. Now, the heat stays back over here with the ridge. We go back over to a much more, normal temperature pattern here for the Carolinas. So what do I expect to see? Well, in the near term, just stepping you back here, this will be a lot of upper 80s, lower 90s. Once we get into this time period where we're going to watch this ridge slowly move toward the middle of the country. Remember, I said that was the time we could warm up, days 5 through 10. We could go back in here into a lot of days in the middle to upper 90s, but then switching back over as we get to mid-month, the third week of the month, more toward seasonable temperatures. All right. One thing we have not lacked so far in 2019 is heat. What about those tropics? Well, take a look at this animation. This particular animation, wherever you see those squiggly lines, they're actually encompassing where low pressure is developing. And all that I'm trying to illustrate for you here is the upper levels of the atmosphere, part of the Madden-Julian oscillation, part of what's going on in the flow of the mid-latitude jet stream is preventing a lot of activity here across the open Atlantic. Watch it again. We have no major systems in the forecast, not only through day 5, but stretching this maybe out to the next 10 to 15 days. There are stronger easterly waves coming off of Africa that we have to pay attention to, but it's certainly quiet here in the near term in the tropics. Globally, what are some of the things that we will be watching? Well, the water temperatures here in the main development region, well, they are at least supportive of tropical, storm development. But what's important is the El Nino region out here. We've lost our stronger El Nino signature, and we've seen the ocean temperatures, but also the winds and the low levels of the atmosphere respond to this. And also our global winds have kind of slowed down a bit. And what all that means is that we're going to reduce wind shear across this area. And when wind shear is reduced during the main part of the hurricane season, that does mean that tropical systems do have a better chance at surviving. So what I'm trying to say here is that even though my short-term forecast for the tropical activity is suppressed by a lot of upper level, what we call convergence, that's air that's sinking, plus some drier, dusty air, and a lack of just overall support, we do see features playing out here that could mean the middle of the hurricane season, which again is about a month and 10 days away from us right now. Yeah, the middle of that season could be quite active, and we're going to watch it very carefully. But at least in the near term, nothing we're too concerned about. Well, at the beginning, I showed you the Vegetative Health Index for the U.S. I'm going to take you just to a couple places globally. Feel free to pause the video right here and take a look. But just so you know, when you look at this is just looking at a single year, 2019. Wherever you see like blues, like you see up here in parts of, South Dakota, Montana, that blue color here indicates very healthy crop from space. And so I want you to see some other places around the world where we're having some deficit. First place I want to take you to is Europe. Very active storm track in through here in the next 10 days or so. And that's because a sizable ridge builds into southern Europe and just a parade of low pressure systems sweep through this particular area. I know that we care quite a bit not only about Western Europe and the heat that it gets, but also about the countries that are around the Black Sea, which is right in through here. So the Black Sea region of Ukraine to the north, Turkey to the south, and the Russian wheat belt here, and Kazakhstan is over here. Well, we have seen a pretty big pattern flip for that region over there in Ukraine and the Russian wheat belt since about the end of June. For much of July and beginning of August, a lot of below average temperatures, which we're going to see continuing in the near term. So keep a close eye on that, as it could be a major market player moving forward. And finally, one of the bigger features we have over in China. So certainly we grow a lot of cotton here and several other crops that we're in competition with in the United States. We're watching 3 tropical systems in the near term and then a 4th that shows up. And these are going up like this, and this one's going to skirt across India, keeping things very wet. If I take these drawings off here and click play, there they go. Now look at the tropical activity that's going on in the Pacific Ocean, the Western Pacific. And to put that all together, take a look at this. This is just the next 10 days of total accumulated precipitation. So the very productive fields here north of the Korean Peninsula and then south of Beijing, picking up anywhere between 1.5 to 3.5 inches of rain. Southern China, where the tropical system comes in, much heavier rain. And look at this, coming off the coast of Myanmar, going toward Bangladesh, but then over through India. This is adding to the tropical moisture that we get from the monsoon, picking up some extremely heavy rain there. So I want to keep you aware of what's going on in China and in India here in the near term. So with that global perspective, though, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions want to thank you for your attention. Hope you look forward to our next video coming out next week. Thank you.